Okay, so this next problem is an example with distributing a negative. And I just wanted to cover this because people so often forget to distribute that negative. We assume when we have this negative here that it'd be like a -1. And so I'm going to rewrite it now distributing this -1. So I'd have 2x, and it'd be -1 times 3x. So it's now -3x. And -1 times a +6, so it's going to make it subtract 6, equals 5x subtract 30. Now then, on that same side, I'm going to go ahead and combine these like terms. So 2x subtract 3x is going to give me a -x subtract 6 equals 5x subtract 30. Now then, I'm going to move my like terms using inverse operations so I can solve for x. So to keep me from having a -x and dealing with that, I'm going to move my x over here, so I'm going to add x, because -x plus x would be 0. And then I'm going to add my 30, because it's subtract 30 there. And -30 plus 30 would be 0. Now I have 30 plus a -6, so I have 24 equals 5 plus 1 is 6x. And I'll divide by my 6. 24 divided by 6 is 4 equals x. Now I can substitute up here, so 2 times 4 subtract 3 times 4 plus 6 equals 5 times 4 subtract 30. So I have 8 subtract 12 plus 6 equals 20 subtract 30. 8 subtract 18 equals 20 subtract 30 would be -10. 8 subtract 18 would give us -10 equals -10. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do my examples with fractions and needing a common denominator. So on this first one, when we go to find our common denominator between 4 and 8, which this one you don't technically have to do this on, you could go ahead and use your fractions and complete this problem fine. But I kind of like using this one to get the hang of it before we go on to this one. So we'll go ahead and do this one without finding the common denominator. So we're going to change our 3/4 to 8. So we'd have 6/8 x subtract 2 equals 7/8 x. And how I did that, if you don't remember changing your fractions, 4 times 2 is 8, so I have to do 3 times 2 to get the 6. Now then, this is positive over here, so I'm going to subtract 6/8 x. So 6/8 subtract 6/8 is 0, and I have -2 equals 7 subtract 6 is 1/8 x. This is going to be multiplied by 1/8, so we need to divide by 1/8. And when we divide by our fractions, we're going to keep the first symbol, change, and then multiply by the reciprocal at the bottom. So I get -16 equals x. Now if I check that 3/4 times -16, I'd have 3 times 16 is 48, divided by 4 would be 12, and it'd be a -12 subtract 2 would be -14. And then 7/8 times -16, so I'd have -16 divided by 8 would be -2, and 7 times a -2 would be a -14. I feel like there was an easier way for me to do that, and I probably should scribble this out for when y'all go to look at your papers when I copy these. Alright, Now on this one, we need to find our common denominator. And our common denominator between 7 and 3 is going to be 21. So I'm going to multiply everything by 21. On both sides. So 21 divided by 7 would be 3. So I'm going to have 3 times x plus 1 plus 21 divided by 3 would be 7. So I'll have 7 times x plus 6 equals 21 times 1 is 21. Now then we're going to go ahead and distribute. So I'll have 3x plus 3 because plus 7x plus 42 equals 21. Now I'm going to combine my like terms on the same side. So 3x plus 7x is 10x. 3 plus 42 is 45 equals 21. We're going to subtract our 45. And I have 10x equals 21. Subtract 45 would be 24. Negative 24. Divide by 10 on both sides. Going off on the side, so x equals a negative 2.4. And that's not going to be a pretty one to check in my head, and I didn't leave me room to do it. So I'm going to stop on that one and upload it since it's getting kind of long anyway.